Hey guys, it's Danielle, and today I'm gonna sit down and chat with you guys. It's been so long since we have just sat and chatted and talked it up, and so I figured today would be a good day to do that. This video is going to be, I hope, informative, but it might end up being a rant. I'm gonna work really hard for it not to be a rant. Anyway, you guys, go grab your drinks, get comfortable, sit down, and let's chat for a little bit. So you guys, I have my coffee, but I also have a salad. So I might take little bites here and there of my salad. So forgive me for the food and drink setup, but you know, we're family, so we can do that. We can do that. I wanted to talk to you guys today about my home birth video, specifically 11's home birth video. I have for a minute wanted to sit and just chat and kind of address some of the questions and comments on that particular video. I don't necessarily want to call them mean comments or derogatory or anything like that. I really truly do think a lot of the comments are just from people who are uneducated, misinformed, not really knowledgeable, outdated with their thinking, closed-minded, all of those things. I don't want to say that anybody is ignorant, but some of them I would probably even put in the category of ignorance, and not ignorance in a like derogatory way, but ignorance in the sense of lack of knowledge and understanding, like the true definition of just ignorance and not having a complete understanding. So I kind of really just wanted to address it. And a lot of times I've seen people do videos like this where they address the negative comments or whatever may have you, and I often think like the people that left those comments probably aren't even gonna watch that video, so you're really wasting precious breath. That's really what I think. And for me, I feel like it's the same. Like, I'm probably wasting precious breath. But I also felt like with something as home birth and birthing a child, I think because it's such a broad topic and so controversial, that this video may be helpful maybe for even people who didn't even watch my home birth, or people who didn't leave a comment, or people who are really curious or really don't understand or whatever. So I figured, you know what, I think I'll go ahead and do it regardless, and hopefully maybe some of them do watch it and maybe it'll give them some insight and answer their questions, or maybe, I don't know, they'll come out a little more informed, a little more educated, with a little more knowledge. Maybe their minds will open up a little bit, whatever, I don't know. So yeah, anyway, so let's dive right in. The number one thing that people addressed in that video, and the thing that I'm probably going to spend the most time talking about, was the fact that my kids were present. Okay, so I can understand how a lot of people, especially in the United States of America, have grown up, let me say, especially in the United States of America, and especially Black people. I can understand how many of us, Blacks especially, have grown up thinking that birth is this, I don't know, like dark and secretive and inappropriate and, you know, thing. I can totally get how in our country, and especially for Black people, how that could be the case. If you look at the history of giving birth, there was a time when the dads weren't even allowed in the room. Like, the dads were not allowed in the room. So there was that point and that whole stigma behind a woman giving birth. From my understanding, you know, the woman is exposed, and the husband, a lot of men couldn't handle seeing their wives in that amount of pain. There was also the theory of a lot of women died during giving birth, so having the husband present. There was the whole stigma of germs, and, you know, other people being in a room would bring other germs, and all of those things that we now know today is not true. So I can see how in the US of A, we would automatically, when you see children present, it's like shock, mind blown, kids in the delivery room or at the birth. I can also understand for a Black person, like, oh my God, you just don't do that, because I feel like, not all, because obviously I'm Black and my children were present, but I feel like for a lot of Black people, you know, children A are supposed to stay in a child's place and stay out of grown folks' business and all these other things that Black people, not all, tend to do or instill in their families. So I can understand how some people, and let me just add this, I also feel like there is amongst the Black culture this whole idea of children being a burden or a hindrance to being able to do or achieve or grow or whatever. There's also that within the culture. Again, not all. So I can understand how you couple those two things together and you get a lot of people saying, oh my God, I can't believe she had her kids there. Oh, and on and on and on and on and on and on. So I get it. Now let me try to inform and educate. So, first thing, it's not unsanitary because your body has already been exposed to your home. Whatever germs are in your home, your body has ultimately adjusted to those particular germs. And I say germs loosely. So as far as it, my kids are touching me, hugging me, laying in my bed, sleeping in my bed all the time. So to say with them being unsanitary would also be to say my husband being there, or my midwife being there, or if I was at the hospital, the doctors being there or the nurses being there. That would be to say the same thing. So there is no threat of sanitary or sanitation or germs because your kids are around. That would be also to say my kids are germy. My kids take baths, wash their hands, shower, do those things. And in a setting like giving birth, you had my midwives and my husband who too also made sure that as they were wanting to help assist me labor, that they had washed their hands. So there was not that that issue or that concern. Number two, the amount of people. So first of all, I have a lot of kids, so they're always around. It's always crowded. 11's coming, so if you see the camera shifting, he's making his way. He said, y'all talking about me? Y'all talking about me? So that is a constant in my house. So maybe for somebody who does not have any, this is your first child, then yes, if you had 10 other kids around you, that may be stressful for you. Again, understanding. you know, or if it was your second child or your third or whatever it may be. But in my case, where I am consistently around this amount of people, that just did not bother me. Number two, if you had your child in the hospital, I'm gonna guess that some of these people that said that's just too many people in the room, never giving birth, or maybe they were, I don't know, unaware of how many people was in the room when they gave birth to their child. Because if you have birth in a hospital, there are nurses, there is the doctor. If you have a cesarean section, there is the pediatric nurses, there is the anesthesiologist, there is this person, that person in the room. So most of the time in a delivery setting, there is going to be at least 3 to 5, sometimes more, depending on the type of birth that you are having. Not to mention if you have family there. So you have 5 staff, and then your husband and your mother, and if your father-in-law and mother-in-law want to be there, then you have them. You look up, it's about 10 people in your delivery room at the hospital. So I mean, I don't know, maybe these people are birthing their kids in the wild with just themselves. I don't know, but yeah. Again, my room was big, so we were not crammed into a tiny little hospital room. So everybody had room to spread out, relax, or whatever the case may be. So it did not feel crowded in that space. It felt very, for me, supported, and an opportunity for my children to witness a miracle, because that is in fact what birth is. It is a miracle. So there's that. And I do want to, and so that brings me to the next thing. Kids shouldn't see that. Who told the world that? Who said that? So my kids have been present at all of my births from day one. When I gave birth to Jaden, I had one child at the time, and he was there. I had her in the hospital. Unfortunately, the hospital was one of those hospitals where they only wanted my husband in the room. He was the only one allowed in the room. Actually, that birth is what led me to home birth, because I didn't like the fact that they were dictating to me who could be in my room while I was giving birth. So, but immediately after I had her, he was there. When I gave birth to Sydney, my son, my daughter, my brother, my mother, and my husband were there. My little brother, who at the time I think was like 7, maybe not even that old, he recorded the birth, and y'all, he was all in it. He recorded, he got the details. They were all there, and so forth and so on. As I continued to have children, the more of my kids were there. Some of my kids I had late at night, like Major was born in the middle of the night, so none of my kids were there. With Phoenix, only Jaden was there, because all of my other kids were asleep. Jaden had told me that she wanted to be a part of it, so I made sure to wake her up when he was born, and so she was there. With 11, all of my kids had expressed that they kind of wanted to be a part of it. If they didn't want to be a part, they weren't forced to be there. They had the option to get up and leave. All of the little kids, they had been to all of my midwife appointments, had asked every single question a child would ask, and so they had already been through the entire process. So being at the birth was a given for them. So to answer those questions on, oh, that's so inappropriate, they had already asked the questions. We are truthful and honest with our kids. So when they say, where does the baby come from, we don't say, oh, the stork dropped them off. We don't give magical, mystical stories. They knew that the baby was going to come out of my vagina. Now, could they rationalize that in their heads? No, they're kids, they're toddlers. No, they're not toddlers, but they're little kids. And so the thought of it was like, how is that gonna happen? I mean, there's grown folks that are like, how is that going to happen? So they didn't quite understand, but they knew that that was going to happen. So they were already prepared for it. And so it was no trauma in knowing that the baby was coming out of my vagina. And again, I birthed in a pool, so there wasn't a lot that they could see anyway because he was born underwater. So for those who were like, oh, that's too much, they see and they all in her stuff, they really couldn't be because I was in the water. Now I don't know if these people don't understand what being under the water means, but I'm going to explain it the best way that I can. If you are in a pool and your butt is under the water, you have the water, you've labored in this water, so the water is not crystal clear. And so when your bottom is under the water, this being the water, there's not much of the vagina that you can see. Your midwife can't necessarily see exactly what's going on. 11 is trying to show you guys every single thing. So it's a blurry kind of vision. So yes, you see the baby coming out, but you don't know where the baby is coming from. And I delivered this guy in the doggy position, so it looked like I pooped him out, to be quite truthful. He was pooped out, according to the baby. So there wasn't anything that they saw that would have been traumatizing. But even if it was a traditional delivery, all right, y'all, my camera died, so if it's a different angle view, sorry. That whole idea of being traumatized, I don't understand that. And this battery's about to die, y'all. What's up with that? I've charged these things. Stop. We were basically, I was talking about traumatizing, the idea of the kids being in the room and being traumatizing for them. And so I think that's just really based off of what your definition of trauma is. And for me, trauma is being abused, being starved, being in combat. That's actually my teenagers now. Would be some type of trauma in my opinion. But watching a birth or a delivery, I think trauma is a very strong word to use. Many of us saw birth in school. If you took any type of health class or a sexual education class or anything like that, they typically showed a live delivery in those classes. And we all still are functional, healthy, well-rounded adults. I don't think, or I have not yet to meet anybody that was traumatized from that experience. So again, I think trauma would be a very strong word to use. So that was also one of the hot topics, was the kids being traumatized. The other thing that I really don't even know why it kept coming up was the music that I had attached to that video, because I was playing records in the background. So during my birth, I had records playing. 11 was actually born to Bruno Mars, believe it or not. So I had records playing, we had music going. It was just a light, fun setting. And so because of that, I had to put a different type of music over the video to cover up the music I had playing in the background in order to not get demonetized by YouTube. I have now learned that I could have just extracted that music from the video. I didn't know that at the time, so I just put a different type of music over the top. So I apologize for those of you who found the music as a distraction. Now, if you were referring to the music that I was playing, my records, because every now and then you could hear what I was playing in the background. I mean, if you're a person that don't like music, then maybe that would be distracting for you. But for me, music is relaxing, it's calming, it's fun, it's exciting, it lightens the mood a lot of times. And so in my birthing plan, I wanted to have my records playing and just kind of have that fun, calming kind of atmosphere going. Again, this was a home birth. One of the reasons I chose it was so that I could do things like play music. And so as far as hearing what was being said with my midwives, I guess a lot of people wanted to hear the conversation. There really wasn't a whole lot of conversation. I mean, it was a lot of small talk, a lot of, do you need to reposition? How are you feeling? A lot of me saying, why is it taking so long? Because my labors are usually very short and very quick. And so I was kind of like, why is this taking so long? And just my midwives reassuring me that it was okay, that it was taking a little longer than normal. So that's pretty much what we were discussing most of the time. The other thing was about my daughter putting her hands in the pool. I mean, I really don't know what the concern was or the issue was, but ultimately she would stick her hands in there just to kind of rub my back. And honestly, her hands were not like deep in the water. It was more so rubbing my back. So it may have appeared that way, but a lot of the times it was rubbing my back or something like that. It wasn't like a toy boat and we're just like roll, roll, roll your boat. Even though with my first home birth, my daughter was in the pool with her Barbies while I was laboring. So that could have been the case. She just literally was, you know, kind of trying to calm me and soothe me and those kind of things. So there was one part, and my oldest daughter had pulled my son from in front of the camera. And so there's a part where you see her like pulling him from in front of the camera. She knew that I had set the camera up there and was recording, and he just kind of came and just stood, and because we know him, he would have stood there literally the whole entire time. So she just pulled him out of the frame so that I could be seen and we could make sure that we did not miss the actual delivery of the baby. So it wasn't a situation of pulling him in a negative, or I mean, that's anybody. If you're recording something specific and somebody gets in front of your camera, you're gonna say, excuse me, can you move? Or if it's family, you're probably gonna push them out the way or move them out the way or whatever the case may be. So I don't think anybody would allow somebody to just stand in front of the camera or in the frame of what they're trying to record. So rest assured, he's okay. No limbs were lost or broken. So before I kind of get into the last question, that was a resounding question, and I think I may have done a video on this already, so it probably won't be a long answer. But anyway, before I get to that, for us, we feel like everybody has the option to raise their kids however they choose to raise them, and the ability to introduce their kids to whatever they want to introduce them to whenever they feel like they're ready. And we tend to shelter and not shelter. Our definition of shelter is probably different from a lot of people's definition of shelter. So for us, things like sex and birth and marriage and your body as a female or a male, those things are talked about consistently from birth through adulthood. That is just how we operate with our kids. Those are not taboo topics. We like for the kids to hear it from us, to be getting actual factual knowledge, and not to go out and all of a sudden hear it from their friends, or not to be in this time on TV and hear something or see something. So from the time they are tiny, we are introducing elements of sex, elements about their body, and talking about birth as though it is nothing. It is not a taboo topic for us. And so a lot of people to say, oh, it's just too much. It's like, but you're okay with your child going to school and in sex education learning about STDs or learning about condoms or all of this other stuff surrounded around sex or birth, but you're not okay with them learning about what it actually is, what it actually means, and what it actually looks like. That I just find insane, and I don't understand that. I don't understand why people feel like you should never talk about these things, or you shouldn't talk about these things until they're 18, 19, or 16 or whatever, and then you only want to talk about the act of sex. You don't want to talk about with sex comes a baby possibly, or this is the purpose of sex. The purpose of sex is to have a child, really. I mean, yes, it's pleasurable, but it ultimately was to continue the humankind. So to not want to talk to your kids about that, I don't understand it. I don't get it, and I don't know where that mindset comes from. So in my house and with us, we just talk to our kids about it. It's not taboo. So there's no ew and oh, that's so disgusting around birth, because it's just a natural thing. I mean, pretty much. I do want to touch on, before I get into the last thing, the pain. And a lot of people was like, oh, you know, I wouldn't want them around me or touching me when I'm in pain. Everybody handles pain differently. Everybody is relieved from pain differently. And so for me, when I am laboring, I don't mind being touched. Like, it's like a massage. If your body is in pain, getting a massage will tend to relieve the pain. I have a natural birth, so there is no epidural, there is no gas, there is no pain shots or any of that. So the touch relieves the pain. Having my kids in the room helps me to be logical and realistic about the pain, because I know they're present, I know they're there, and so it helps me to be able to hone it in. Like, is this really that painful to where I need to shout and scream to the top of my lungs, or can I breathe through this contraction? So it provides me with a form of focus, so to speak, and so it helps me, honestly. And my kids are not strangers to pain. They've all been hurt. They've all felt pain. They've seen me in pain outside of labor. So that seeing somebody in pain is not traumatizing because somebody said that. That's not traumatizing. It teaches a child how to console a person in pain. Like, you're gonna see people in pain, whether it's emotionally, mentally, or physically. And so already being exposed to it teaches you how to be empathetic and sympathetic and be able to console a person in pain, as you saw in the video. My little kids especially wanted to console and to do something to try to help relieve the pain, which isn't that what we should be wanting to teach our kids? Could just be me though. So that was a big question. Seeing me in pain, was that going to be traumatizing? None of my kids are now walking around traumatized about, oh my God, you know, I don't even know what that would look like. I don't even know what would that look like. I mean, at the end of the pain came a baby brother, and so you saw what the outcome of the pain. For my daughters, it teaches them what the female body can do. The strength, the power, how exceptional our bodies are. Like, our bodies are exceptional. It is amazing. It is a miracle. It is a blessing. It's just, and they get to see that and witness that before they go on that journey themselves. And for my sons, wow, what support system they will be for their wives to be able to know and respect and understand what it takes to bring a human life into this world. And so how to be of support for her. So those are the things that are being taken away from this. There's another thing, talk about support. You know, somebody has thought, oh, you know, the husband looks like he doesn't want to be there, or he's not involved, or whatever the case may be. This was my 5th homework, and this was the only one where honestly my husband was able to just sit back and not have to just be 100% hands-on. Because I labor so fast, because I deliver so fast, Sydney, he delivered himself, so was 100% hands-on. Major, he almost delivered himself. My midwife, Major and Charlie, they both showed up in time to catch. So, and Charlie, he literally barely made her birth. He had to rush home from work, ran in, and literally got there in time to see her be born. And Phoenix was such a long and hard labor and delivery. He had to just literally, and I posted Phoenix birth. He was the whole time having to hold me and rub and massage and console, because it was so hard. That labor was just hard. So this was the first time to be able to just sit back and laugh and crack jokes, and us to just relax. Like, we don't need that. I don't need that whole like honey and like, that's just not something that I desire or need or want. So for us, we just wanted to be able to chill. And I mean, that's an oxymoron, chill during birth, but that was the birthing plan, to be able to relax, let the midwives and the doula that was there to be able to do their job while we just kind of chilled out and let the kids be involved and enjoy. We had already said the kids were gonna catch the baby, so wasn't a need for him to catch the baby. They were gonna do it. All of that, cut the umbilical cord. We knew that we wanted the kids to be as hands-on as possible and as much as they could be. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. So the final thing is how we named our baby a number. I just feel like the ignorance, and I say that in the nicest way, so the lack of knowledge around that is just, I just find it like, wow, we just have not evolved as a species, really. So when you say that, what do you think about the name Rose or Joy? Or you know, Mercedes, because that's still a common name. Or Ivy, or now Blue, or now Chicago. Are these things not items as well? Or, you know, were they always names? And what was always a name? How did something become a name? What defines a name? Like, these are the things that I need people to explain or elaborate on when they're saying these things. Because yes, while 11 does represent a number, does that mean that that word cannot also represent a person? Can it not also represent a place, 11th Street? Can it not also represent an item? You know, so to say that something, a word, only represents one thing is, in my opinion, a lack of knowledge or ignorance, to just be blunt. So we chose 11 Obvious reasons, he was number 11. Number 2, my husband and my kids literally had an obsession with Stranger Things and 11 in that show. So they really liked that name. Number 3, 11 is an angel number. And so what 11 as an angel number represents, please do the research because I'm not gonna spend all this time explaining it, but what it represents rang so true in my life at that time of giving birth to him. So the fact that it was an angel number. Number 4, 7-11, he would have been our 7th biological child and then our 11th child. So just our lucky baby is what we call him. Number 5, there were 12 disciples, but then one betrayed, which left 11. We would have 12 children, but we lost one, which left 11. So the number just represents so many different things, and that name then resonated in us and what it meant and stood for. So that's my people. And quite frankly, we like it. It's different. It's different. I like different. I'm non-traditional. That's why I am the non-traditional mommy. That's why. I'm not going to just be like, hey, let's name our child Jeff because Jeff is a common name and there's 45 Jeffs in one room. No, sorry, not doing it. So that is why. I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't, then it never will, and I'm sorry that it doesn't. So that is it, you guys, for this chat and very long, extensive video. I hope that you guys have a little more insight, maybe a little more knowledge, maybe a little more information, a little more understanding of when it comes to birth and the stigma around birth and home births and allowing your children or your family or whoever to be present, how it's not this whole taboo kind of thing. Like, hey, if you guys want to come, if I had another birth and you guys wanted to come on down. If I could record live, go on live, I would go on live. Like, that's just me. I don't find that to be invasive or just this highly classified thing. I find it to be a beautiful miracle and just wonderful. And I honestly am thankful and grateful and will share with anybody the fact that I'm able to birth at home and do it naturally, and that my body can do that. For me, that I'm beyond grateful and willing to share my experience with anybody who wants to be a part of it, which is why I put it on YouTube. So anyway, I hope that, again, this helps in some form or fashion, or at least was entertaining anyway. And yeah, if I forgot something, or if you really have a question or really curious about something in more detail with birth in general, or home birth, or having your kids present and what that looks like and what capacity, whatever, you know, feel free to drop that below. And if you're still here, then obviously you need to hit the subscribe button and join my little family. Like, you're an MVP. You're an MVP. For the rest of my non-traditional family, you guys already know you're the MVPs all the way, forever and always. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. All right, guys.